A very good evening to one and all. So I welcome you all in this today's talk, and today's talk will be delivered by Dr. G. Narari Shastri, Director of CSR NIS Jorat. So I request Dr. Shastri to kindly deliver his talk.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to spend some time with you about the knowledge society and how the science and society interact and role models, some of them, and we will try to see how we can get the self-confidence, Atmanirbharta and Atmavishwas and self-reliance. If you look at the science in the 20th and 21st century has unprecedented gains in advancing human development and eradicating poverty, which came largely from technological breakthroughs. This continues to be true in 21st century. When you look at human development in a large number of dimensions, whether it is education, health, wealth, producing newer and newer materials and technologies, and human beings in general have made a great progress due to the advances in science. Let us see what is a knowledge society. Planning Commission has reported about 20 years before, or at the beginning of this century, that the knowledge society is the one which uses knowledge holistically to empower and enrich people and is an integral driver of sustainable development or societal transformation. So, holistically to empower and enrich people and is an integral driver of sustainable development and societal transformation. And the second point is even more interesting. A lifelong learning society committed to innovation. The third point is a knowledge society has the capacity to generate, diffuse, utilize, and protect knowledge. It creates economic wealth and social equity. A knowledge society is the one which enlightens people towards an integrated view of life as a fusion of mind, body, and spirit. I think this is a fantastic summary of a great vision, especially the last sentence, which reflects the wisdom of the people who made that. It enlightens people towards an integrated view of life as a fusion of mind, body, and spirit. That is knowledge society. We have a complete enlightenment as a society where we view the life in an integrated way as a fusion of mind, body, and spirit. So, for that to have, we have to always seek knowledge. It's very, very important. Always seek knowledge. If you take the first letters, that is ask. What do you have to ask? You have to ask questions. How do you get the knowledge? Only by asking questions. And when you ask the question, you will keep educating yourself. That is the key for success. So this ask and key are extremely important. And one has to see that knowledge is having the right answer, whereas intelligence is asking the right question. Yeah, now it is coming. It takes time. So one has to realize that we have to have a knowledge, and the knowledge is having the right answer, and intelligence is asking the right question. While we have knowledge, people also have to be intelligent. So asking questions is very important. And I am very much impressed by the Nobel Prize winner in physics, Isaac Rabi, and he made a statement that my mother made me a scientist without ever intending to. Every other Jewish mother in Brooklyn would ask her child after the school, so did you learn anything today? But not my mother. Izzy, she would say, did you ask a good question today? That difference, asking good questions, made me become a scientist. So, the Nobel Prize winner in physics, Isaac Rabi, acknowledges that very early in his life, he was asked, did you ask a good question today? I think asking a good question is much more important than getting good marks or learning something new. So one has to realize that it's extremely important that one has to ask questions to be innovative. I would like to take you to a few important statements. D.K. Price made a statement that there is hardly any social problem on which science cannot make some contribution. Whatever problem that you take in society, science will make some contribution. There's no doubt about it. But however, science is never sufficient to solve a problem completely. It is, however, always necessary. So, while science can make some contribution, it may not be able to solve completely, but nonetheless, it's absolutely important that science has to be integrated. So, what is very important is to have a science for a policy. When you make a policy, you need to have a scientific basis for creating that policy. And more importantly, if you have science, this science will not be flourishing unless you have a policy. So there should be a science for policy, and there will also be a policy for science. This is very, very important, which will very intimately integrate society with science. Science and technology is an engine for development. I think there is a consensus among policymakers and economists that at least half, if not more, of the economic growth in countries is directly attributable to science and technology. If you look at the economic growth or the power of people, this is very, very closely associated with the science and technology. So in globalizing, knowledge-driven world with increasing importance of service industries and technological competitiveness, science and technology and knowledge contribution for development can only become higher. So science and technology, knowledge-driven world with increasing importance of service industries and technological competitiveness, these things are extremely important for the development. And there may be some disputes, but it is absolutely important to understand that science and technology is essential for the human development. Now let us look at how things are changing. If you quantitatively measure all the information that is available at the 0th year, that is at the year of the birth of Jesus Christ, it took almost 1750 years to double that information or to double the data that is available at that particular point of time. This is some estimate based on some measures. However, it took only 150 years to double the information or data that is available in 1750. So the information is doubled. If there is X amount of information that is available at 0 AD, this information has become 2x at 1750. From 1750 to 1900, it became 4x. From 1900 to double the information, it took only 50 years. Initially, it took 1750 years, then 150 years, then only 50 years. It doubled from 4x to 8x. From 1950 to double the information, it took only 35 years. So it is only 1985, the information got doubled. From there, people are estimating that the information and knowledge that one has is doubling every 5 years. So if you back calculate, one will realize that more new information has been generated in the last 35 years compared to the previous 5,000 years. So we are all in the era of data, huge volume of data, huge velocity with which the data is accumulating. So data science, and how do you get this information into knowledge? Information which will be able to help us to create knowledge societies is something of paramount importance. Let's now come back to basics. We may affirm absolutely that nothing great in the world has been accomplished without passion. Passion is very, very important. And as all of you know, excellence is also very important. Without passion and excellence, not many things can be achieved in life. So why do you do things in your life? That's also very important. Now, let me try to look at what are all the problems that are plaguing the world. The problems that are plaguing the world, I'm sorry, there is a problem with animation. Are you able to see? The threats in the society in the 21st century can be seen as terrorism, or poverty, or depression, unemployment, price hike, and racism. These were considered as some of the problems that are there in the world. And then I just wanted to put this pandemic and natural disasters which will come over that. But suddenly the threat in the society was seen as pandemics. Or if there is a natural disaster, to terrorism or poverty or depression or unemployment or price hike or racism, they all will take the backseat. So from time to time, scientists or knowledge societies are challenged with threats that occur in society. As I have already discussed, science may not be able to provide all the solutions for the problems that are there in the society, but without science, one cannot do anything. So knowledge is of an extreme importance, or knowledge is essential for the society to confront the problems that it faces. So the scientists should also be looking at not only passion and excellence, the relevance. While excellence refers to the quality of work, relevance refers to the degree of fit between what we do well and what is needed by the consumers. So the relevance will give us the motive power. Motive power is the ability to combine your excellence, relevance and passion into action. Something has to be motivating you. You need to have a motivation to discover a new drug for COVID. You need to have a motivation to fight the floods that are coming, or you need to have a motivation to combat the poverty that is there. So the motive power indicates the ability to move and to act with strength and conviction based on your abilities, standards and values. Excellence, relevance and passion provides the substance, while motive power provides the form that shapes the three together to create the indispensable psychologist. Motive power is especially important, and this leads you towards your final goal. So if you want to achieve anything, you need to have a strong motive. You need to have a strong aspiration to do it. Then excellence, passion and relevance will come together. But most of you think that we are all normal human beings, and what is the role of an individual? There are some professional responsibilities, as we were talking about passion, dedication, excellence. But in profession also you would like to have joy, fun, you would like to have creativity. But there are also personal responsibilities. Education, you need to have a job, a career, or you may want to have a business, or you may want to have family, and there may be some responsibilities which require you to pay attention to them. And there are also social responsibilities. So an individual will have a professional, personal and social responsibilities. The social responsibility is humanity, because you should have a humanitarian phase to be in the society, and what you are doing should be relevant, it should be constructive, and patriotism and charity are also very important. And essentially these personal responsibilities and social responsibilities, often with the professional responsibilities, is based on the fact that there should be a desire to help each other. Okay, so a scientist is an individual. While he has the professional responsibilities, a scientist will also have a social responsibility as well as, definitely, as all of you know, a personal responsibility. What is very, very fun for a scientist? Creativity. How one creates new things? First of all, they should have inspiration to create some new things. They should have a vision or an idea. They should be motivated. They should be able to imagine, innovate. They should have the required knowledge, and maybe they have to brainstorm. And all these things are required to be creative. So I would like to tell you that it's very important that we know many things, and people will keep telling us these things, and many times we will forget. And positive attitude is very, very important. I would like to recall what Dr. Mashelkar has told us a few days before, not in a verbatim. I just wanted to say that you should always aim very, very high, and you should not leave till you succeed. Perseverance is very, very important. You should be able to hang on till you achieve your success. Always be a part of the solution, not the part of a problem. You should always be understanding that you have to come up with a solution. for every problem that is there. When the doors are closed, when the conventional ways are closed, you open your own way or you open your own doors. Don't be panicky that all your choices are exhausted. You come up with your own choice. And very importantly, you have to work in silence and let all the noise will be made by your success. While innovation is important, passion is important, compassion is very important. It's very important to be compassionate. Sympathy and empathy is very, very important. And this is a very interesting message that we can do anything, but we cannot do everything. So, if you want to do something, you have to focus and you have to prioritize that. And if you try to do everything, you cannot do anything. And this is another very important feature, that when someone says that it is impossible to do, listen to them, but don't get deterred. You should actually be looking after doing that. Because when someone says it is impossible, treat it as his or her limitation and not your limitation. And actually there is a lot of fun in doing impossible things. What is an impossible thing? Till somebody makes an impossible thing possible, it's an impossible. So any scientist or a researcher should be very much interested to work on these things. Acquire new skills and new technologies. This is very, very important. As we are changing, we have to acquire new skills and we have to acquire new technologies. Otherwise, you will become irrelevant. And there is no limit for imagination and achievement. Sky is the limit. Actually, the scope of your imagination will tell you how you will be able to succeed. So this will be always be related to aim high. Okay, so imagine and dream. And I will very quickly go through some of the role models that we have across the globe, going from different generations and different centuries also. So I would like to make this as a very quick slideshow of different personalities, because I would like to get back to these people in a little bit more detail. And I would like to say that some of the very, very good individuals, we will try to see their life, how they have led their life. And I also would like to talk about some unsung heroes, but not this person, Isaac Newton the Great, because probably he's one of the greatest celebrities, even in his own lifetime. So he did everything, from universal law of gravitation to new experiments on light and a large number of things, and theory of gravity. And Newton can be seen as a personification of passion, creativity, relevance, and excellence. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on these great people. I will just very quickly go through it because I wanted to give some good message at the end of this talk. And this lady, Marie Curie, is unbelievable. And I would like you to read about it and then we will get back to her. Marie Curie believed that science has a beauty, a great beauty. A scientist in his laboratory is not a mere technician. He is also a child confronting natural phenomena that impress him through the very fairy tales. So there are quite a few things that one has to learn about this great lady who got the Nobel Prize in physics as well as chemistry, and a fantastic role model for passion in science. And I would like to also get back to Yellaprakada Subbarao, one of the very interesting persons who did not get the enough name, and Subramaniam Chandrasekhar. I think he is really an outstanding person with spectacular contributions in astrophysics. According to Subramaniam Chandrasekhar, science is a perception of the world around us. Science is a place where what you find in nature pleases you. There is a lot that one can talk about Chandrasekhar and Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya, an engineer and a human being par excellence, and he is a personification of hard work. Hard work performed in a disciplined manner will, in most cases, keep the worker fit and also prolong his life. Probably this is the secret of Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya, who was very active even in his 90s. And another person is Venki Ramakrishnan, who is currently the president of the Royal Society. And there are greats, super greats like J.C. Bose, the only Nobel laureate of India with unshared Nobel Prize, C.V. Raman. Of course, we have Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And I think one of his statements that small aim is a crime, have a great aim, will summarize quite a few things that how one should really take this life as a challenge and then aim very high. He says that small aim is a crime. And there are people like Graham Bell, Stephen Hawking, many people are there. I just wanted to tell you that this particular today lecture, I just wanted you to tell the importance of reading the biography of people. And if you want to be one, I like the statement of Swami Vivekananda. Take up one idea. Be focused. Try to understand that you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. So try to take up one idea, which is the big challenge. Make that one idea your life. Think of it. Dream of it. Live on that idea. Let the brain, muscles, nerves, every part of your body be full of that idea. This is the way to success. That's what Swami Vivekananda Great has talked about, and I strongly get motivated by listening to that, and I believe that that is the way to go about. So, as we don't want to have a prolonged lectures, I just wanted to tell you something which is of great revelation to me when I heard about it a few decades, 10-15 years before. Lord Macaulay, in his speech to British Parliament, made a statement that I have travelled across the length and breadth of India, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native self-culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. This is almost 200 years before, and all of you know that probably Britishers, when they have plotted, they are almost successful. Unfortunately, many of us, if not all of us, have fallen into the trap that the trap that is proposed by Lord Macaulay, that if we replace the Indian old and ancient education system, Indian culture, by foreign culture and try to tell them that that is good and greater than Indian culture, Indians will lose their self-esteem and their native self-culture, and they will become what Britishers want them, a truly dominated nation. And unfortunately, you have become a truly dominated nation after Lord Macaulay has plotted this in 1835 in his speech in the British Parliament. Adam Osborne, who is a very good friend of Steve Jobs, has wondered. It is therefore with some misgiving that today I find myself dealing with Indians, many of whom do not feel proud of their Indianness. Indians are recognized throughout America as technically superior. Since the day Indians learn pride, India will rapidly move out of its third world status to become one of the world's industrial powers. This is not you and I. This is not an Indian who made a statement. This is made by an American who observed that there is a problem that Indians are not feeling proud of their Indianness. And he observed, Adam Osborne, that since the day Indians learn pride, India will rapidly move out of its third world status to become one of the world's industrial powers. My dear friends, it is a time where we are proud, not just because we have a great past, because we have a great present, we have a great future. We will have to somehow take this testing time of a COVID pandemic to sit back and try to see that the only way that our nation will become stronger is to increase the passion, the excellence, and the patriotism for achieving the cause of relevance at these testing times. And scientists are the ones who will be able to make huge contributions in this area. The scientists of 17 years, 20 years, 25 years, because this is the age at which people are able to perform the best, and the best discoveries will be made at that particular point of time. So one has to catch them young. Who will catch them young? Every one of you, you have to discover yourself that this is a great opportunity for you to excel. And I put D.S. Kothari's statement below Adam Osborne's statement that how can we lament lack of national pride in Indians, because we were saying that there is a problem that we are not proud about ourselves. And Professor Kothari says that how can we lament this without first acquainting them with the country's phenomenal scientific achievements in the dim, distant past. So it is extremely important to also learn history. And it's also very important to know what our scientists have contributed, what other scientists have contributed. It's very important to learn. For example, it may be very, very pathetic if you don't know what is the contribution of Sir C.V. Raman, or Meghnad Saha, or J.C. Bose, or E.C.G. Sudarshan, or G.N. Ramachandran, Hargobind Khorana, Subhash Mukhopadhyaya, Ruchiram Sahani. There are so many great people. Even some people may not have much idea of what is the scientific contribution of J.C. Bose, S.N. Bose, S.S. Bhatnagar, Homi Bhabha. There are innumerable number of people are there who have made tremendous contribution in fundamental science, applied science, translational science, and nation building. I think the strength of any nation is the power of its young people. And I believe that most of the people who have attended this talk are fairly young. And you being young or old is also more to the mind. So I hope that those who are attending SRTP will develop a very, very positive mindset and understand that lots of discoveries can be made if you are able to focus. If you are able to work in silence, if you are able to take yourself seriously. Nothing can be achieved if someone wants to somehow manage some marks, bunk exams, manage some certificates, get a job, enjoy life without understanding what is enjoyment. Enjoyment is the one only when somebody is really very, very keenly doing science and try to go to the bottom of the problem and have a lot of passion and try to acquire technical skills and try to achieve excellence, try to develop the skill sets and try to develop positive attitude and see that how they will be very, very useful to our society. In the absence of that, it will be very difficult for people. In the absence of that, it will be very difficult for people to achieve anything. I think I will try to stop because I don't want to talk for much more than 30-35 minutes because the slides are not moving and there are some questions. So now I will try to take some questions. There, Ambarish Raja Deka says that what will be the consequence after 10 years from now when robots will completely replace the entire labor needs to a very big extent in any industry? Already we have shortage of jobs. How we will cope up in that environment where AI, ML, IoT will be of immense importance? This is a very important question that Ambarish has raised. Ambarish's question is, when the artificial intelligence and robotics will take over the normal life, what happens to us? Lots of people have asked this question, but the reality is there is still a lot of scope for the human beings to contribute, and robotics and are to be controlled by human beings only, and it's very unlikely that human beings are controlled by these robotics. So I feel that all of you have to understand that as the mechanization and other things are improving, our human comfort levels are improving, and then more and more challenges will be there. And human mind will definitely be occupied with challenges, and I don't think that we will have a problem with the lack of jobs. Problems are of different kind. More and more jobs will be available for the people who are employable. Now there is no problem with this unemployment for the most deserving and the right person. In India, we require at least 1 lakh PhD scientists. But we have so many people with PhD degree and their knowledge is very, very far from a PhD scientist. They are not employable. You have to realize that a BTech student from very good knowledge from IITs, they were selected and 90% of them are recruited in all sorts of odd jobs. But their paycheck will be starting from 4 lakhs to 5 lakhs per annum. But there are also some BTechs in some colleges or MSCs. They are joining in some private industries for about 8,000 rupees per month. It's very pathetic. And in the same society, there will be an auto driver who will be earning 25,000 rupees per month. So what happens? A BTech student may get around 2 lakhs per month or 8,000 per month. What's the difference between these two? It's the talent. Please don't think that just because somebody is from an IIT, people will be taken. No, it is because they have a good talent set. And if those people who are also from a slightly underprivileged space, they have to work hard. Please believe that if you are a really deserving candidate, you will never be denied what you deserve. Maybe what you deserve will be delayed a little bit, but it will not be denied completely. So one has to be positive and one has to become worthwhile and have enough skill sets to survive in any society. Things are like this now. Things were like this 30 years before. Things were like this 100 years before. And if you want to actually see, we are much more comfortable than people who are 30 years before or 100 years before. What do you actually mean by policy? Policy is a procedure for science, because there are so many policy makers, right? We have Department of Science and Technology, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, ICMR. They are all in the Ministry of Science and Technology. And we need to have a policy for this. How do we take it forward? For a COVID testing, we need to have a policy. For environment protection, you need to have a policy. For poverty alleviation, you need to have a policy. This is what I mean by policy. But sometimes a good cue for us is worse for others. I mean, sometimes we ask to someone that the person says it's not good. How your opinion about it? I think there is no bad questions. Every question has its own relevance. Answers can be different. And if someone says that it's not a good question, it means that they did not understand. Okay. How do we know immediate need of our society or our country? We are all great scientists working close with ministry level, but we student level, how to work on it? Gayatri, this is a question. How do we know immediate need of our society? There are so many needs, right? There are so many challenges. If you look around, there will be challenges and one has to come up with solutions. But most importantly, when you are at a student level, it's extremely important that you increase your skill set, you increase your capability to solve the problems, and there are a large number of problems that are there in the society which can be solved with the scientific and technological power that people has. So how do we know immediate need? For example, there can be so many needs, right? Now, the immediate need is it possible for us to develop a vaccine for coronavirus or a drug? Or can we test it economically in a very fast way without waiting for 3-4 hours? Or is it possible to develop an attitude which will improve the care of a person who is infected with coronavirus? Because the recovery rate is very high. Can we increase the recovery rate? These are probably some of the immediate needs. Or there are villages, still they don't have power. They don't have electricity. And people are very poor, and sometimes these electricity charges are too high for the poor people to afford. Is it possible to generate? Is it possible to generate electricity at a cheaper price? Can we develop a catalyst for water splitting? Is it possible to harvest solar energy in a more effective way? And lot of people were killed in Uttar Pradesh, in Bihar, in the last 10 days. More than 100 people, I think, more than 150 people were killed due to thunderstorms and lightning. And this is a need, and there are many challenges that will be there, and then people should try to see how, and the technology is also available. Sometimes this is not available to the people, and if there are people at a particular locality, they can try to bring in awareness, and they can try to deploy the technologies and then see what are the measures that one can take. So again, Upasana is asking, how can we know that his question is a good question to ask? Whatever question that somebody has in mind, they should be able to think about it and then ask. And I don't think that there is any bad question. There can only be a bad answers. So all of you who will ask questions, you cannot ask a bad question. This question will become bad or good depending on the answer that somebody gives. If I am answering, I can give a bad answer, but you cannot ask a bad question. All questions are asking questions is very important. What is the role of institutions towards research in college level? I think research is something inherently individualistic. A person should have a strong passion to do research. While others can help them to reach their goals of research, it will be very difficult unless a person has a very good interest and attitude towards research, especially at a college level. If you don't get good marks, we don't even get to study the subject of our interest. How to still hold on to your passion and work on our interest? Interesting question. It's always good to have good marks, but sometimes we may not be able to get marks, and then we may not be able to get admission into a particular subject. I know, but when you are at a very high level, all subjects will merge. And maybe you may not get admission into a particular course at a bachelor's level or a master's level, but you can always read. You can always develop interest. And some of the best biologists are professors of mathematics. People have done mathematics throughout their life, have ended up being probably the best biologists, and vice versa. Some of the people who have taken biology or chemistry as a science ended up being the topmost mathematicians. I know a large number of people who started taking chemistry and theoretical chemistry. They become extremely good computer scientists. And one has to realize that if somebody has a real passion and some circumstances prevent them to practice the subject that they are interested in, they should not lose hope. They should continue to study, because if you are interested in a subject, nothing prevents you from studying. And if you are enrolled into a different subject, you should be able to find connections between the subject that you are interested in and the subject that you are enrolled to. So, Neetu Sharma has asked how you achieved your goal. You became inspiration for me. No, Neetu, you are just thinking, I failed so many times and still we are failing. And it's a good thing to have a great goal and then achieve them rather than trying to become successful in everything that you do. Right. Success in getting the right attitude is more important rather than just getting success in whatever that you are doing. I would tell you even one thing, that if you are succeeding in every single task that you are working with, probably there is something wrong in it. Let us recall the great Bharat Ratna APJ Abdul Kalam. He says that small aim is a crime. What does it mean? You have to aim high. When you aim high, when your goals are high, it's tough to achieve. Once you achieve certain things, then it will be very, very good. So we all have to work, and this is like a journey. This is the beauty being a scientist. You just solve a puzzle and then you have to go for another puzzle, and then people are busy in doing this. And Dheeraj asked a very, very important question. The question is how to avoid distraction. This is so important. Actually, the most of the power of the youth is getting wasted because of these distractions. One has to have a very clear analysis of what is that they are doing every day. What is that they have done last month, last 2 months, or last 6 months? And how do they plan for the next 6 months, next month, next week, next day, or next hour? It's very important. The only way to avoid distraction is to plan and plan and plan. All of you, I would say that you must plan your daily routine. You must plan your monthly and half yearly or yearly targets. And you should find out whether you are reaching them or not. And if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, it means you plan to fail. Distraction will come because you are confused or how to focus and what are your goals and targets. And you should be able to split them and then spend time in fixing your goals and targets. Karthikeyan asks, in the data doubling slide, you mentioned that we have a tremendous amount of data being collected in every generation, but most of these data are not being utilized. Example, research paper not translated into product or service. So why are we collecting more data if it is not being translated? Yeah, data is not translated, and that is the reason why we will have to see that what is that we can do with this data. This is a part of a research, right? So just because we are not able to use the data that is there, one cannot say that we should stop producing the data. Probably we should be producing data which is more useful. But how do you know that which data is useful and which data is not useful? You try to see Wright brothers. Wright brothers want to fly. Why they want to fly? Probably they got an inspiration from a bird. When they are flying, then they broke their some of the body parts, and then still they are successful, and that gave rise to aeroplane. That's what they have dreamt. And after some times, what happened? People have designed rockets, and rockets, they are able to go to other planets. They want to go to moon, and these rockets, they are also able to have satellites, and these satellites are able to improve the communication systems, and these communication systems are able to improve a large amount of data to flow from one device to another device through wireless communication. And we have internet, we have email, we have voice over mail, we have image over mail, and now we have these online services. People across the world are able to see each other and talk to each other. And this is something spectacular which has probably started with Wright brothers, just to go away from the gravitation in a very systematic way. But probably nobody has thought about the consequences when they have started. Let me tell you about quantum mechanics. There is classical mechanics and there is quantum mechanics. And people thought that at the end of 19th century, 1890 and all, they thought that physics has solved everything. Every particular problem in the world is solved, and only thing is you will have to make new instruments to solve these problems. At that particular point, slowly many phenomena are there which are not able to be explained using classical mechanics, like black body radiation, photoelectric effect, so on and so forth, which gave birth to a very strange theory called quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is not based on rules or principles or laws. It is based on some postulates. When people try to develop quantum mechanics, they have some arbitrary postulates which were made, and they are able to explain almost every observable. And historically, Albert Einstein was very much against quantum mechanics. And the group of scientists by Niels Bohr and Heisenberg, and they are all in one side and Einstein on the other side. And there's a big fight between the two groups, and then Einstein is already a big figure, and he tried to put all the arguments to say that quantum mechanics is not a correct theory. But every single question that Einstein has posed, day after day, people are able to answer. So the quantum mechanics has become a reality. At that particular point of time, it has become just an exercise based on books. Then this quantum mechanics